JimmerJohnSmith and the Five Goblins. Once upon a time in the wonderfully corrupt kingdom of California there lived a man named JimmerJohnSmith, or Jimmer for short. Jimmer was the strongest man alive, being able to crush boulders like nothing. One day Jimmer was working in the factory when he heard a little girl crying.
What the fuck?
Jimmer, being the nice guy that he is, tried to ignore the small child, but the crying and screaming continued. So, he went to try to help the girl, and when he found her, Jimmer asked, "What is wrong, small child?" The girl replies, "The goblins stole my favorite toy." Jimmer says in response, "Well, that sounds quite like a personal problem." The girl desperately says, "Wait, I will pay." Jimmer, immediately interested since his government-issued factory job pays $2 an hour, replies, "Sounds good. Now where are these goblins?" The girl exited to actually get her toy back, says they're hiding out at Mt. Pike. So the very next day Jimmer heads his way to Mount Pike. Knowing that it will be a long trip, Jimmer plans his trip very specifically. He plans to leave on Sunday and plans to at least be at the 7-Elevens by the Monday, then he hopes to be at the Red Road by Wednesday. Then by at least Friday he hopes to be at the bottom of Mt. Pike. With this knowledge Jimmer heads out Sunday morning. He passes many people the first day since he is still close to civilization. The next day Jimmer gets out of the dumpster where he slept the night before, then he heads towards the 7-Elevens. He passes many animals. He counts 26 frogs, 809 ants, 14 coyotes, 18 deer, 6 spiders, and 14 rioting communists. Jimmer arrives at the 7-Elevens and purchases a big gulp, then he decided to skip sleeping and keeps moving on to the Red Road. During the night Jimmer is walking towards the Red Road and some goblin tries to attack him, but Jimmer, being the strongest man alive, turns around and breaks the goblin's skull with one punch. Knowing that maybe he needed rest, Jimmer went to sleep inside of a burnt military Humvee from the Civil War. He woke up the next day and traveled, making it to the Red Road by noon. When Jimmer came to the Red Road, a sign stated, "Beware of goblins." As soon as he finished reading, a goblin poked him on the shoulder and said, "What you doin' here? Thus is my territory." Jimmer replied, "Who you thunk USC is?" The goblin quite snootily responded, "I am goblin number 1, and me and goblin 2, 3, 4 and 5 run this road, so if yes gonna use thus road, then yes gon have to pay." Jimmer replied with a right look, immediately breaking goblin #1's jaw, leaving him lying on the ground. After the mild conflict, Jimmer made his way down the Red Road. Once goblin number 1 regained consciousness, he ran and got the rest of the goblin crew and intercepted Jimmer, who at this point is tired of breaking goblin skulls. Goblin number 2 yells at Jimmer, "Hey big guy, look over here, I got the whole crew now what is ya gon' do?" Jimmer turned around slowly and said, "I guess I'll have to kill all of yes." "Oh, is that right?" says goblin number 5, who doesn't have horrible grammar and pronunciation, came over to Jimmer and kicked him in the back of the calf, leaving a small bruise. Jimmer promptly responded by picking up goblin number 5 and folding him in half. Then the other goblins promptly rushed Jimmer and began beating him up. Jimmer responded by punching them back. He immediately broke goblin number 3's spine, making him useless. Then he elbowed goblin number 4 in the gut, rupturing the goblin's liver. Seeing that Jimmer was winning, goblin number 2 started looking around and picked up a nearby staple gun and stapled Jimmer in the head, knocking him out. Then they picked Jimmer's body up and transported it to their secret lair in Mt. Pike. Once Jimmer woke up, he found himself tied up to a chair. He immediately noticed that the goblins forgot that he was the strongest man alive because they tied him up with crappy thin rope. So obviously Jimmer broke free and got up, but Jimmer failed to see goblin number 1 sitting there watching him. Goblin number 1 tried to yell for help but had a broken jaw from the earlier exchange with Jimmer. So the goblin grabbed a knife and sliced Jimmer's chest. Jimmer, looking down, seeing his perfect 16-pack get sliced up, grabs goblin number 1 and shatters its sternum and then breaks both of its kneecaps, rendering the first goblin useless. Now Jimmer tries to leave, but goblin 2 and 4 heard the ruckus and are standing in the doorway, both armed with nail guns. Jimmer, seeing that he is in a disadvantage, picks up a folding chair as a shield and bonsai charges at the 2 goblins. Goblin number 2 thinks fast and gets out of the way, but goblin number 5 couldn't get out of the way because of his ruptured liver, so he gets smacked by the chair, which breaks his jaw and causes his skull to fracture. After seeing his friend get crushed by Jimmer, opens fire with the nail gun at Jimmer, striking him in the right leg and in the sternum, causing Jimmer to collapse. Goblin number 2, seeing this, exclaims, "Yes, I've done it." Then, as the goblin was celebrating, Jimmer awoke and grabbed the goblin by its neck and slams him over a table. The slam was so powerful that the goblin went through the table and the floor, revealing the goblin's loot stash, which had millions of dollars of gold and, most importantly, the little girl's toy. After Jimmer had looted the gold and picked up the toy, decided he would return home. He took the red road back, and when he went to sleep he was robbed by goblin number 1, who crawled his way all the way down from the lair. Jimmer, being too tired to fight another goblin, just shrugged it off and started heading back home. He made it back to the 7-Elevens, and when he was in line to buy another big gulp, he realized that the goblin stole only the toy doll, not the gold. So instead of retrieving it, he just went to the local Walmart and bought an identical doll for $7.49. Then he finally returned to the factory where the girl was waiting patiently. He gladly gave the girl her toy and returned back to his home to store his wealth in the kitchen floorboards. And after that, JimmerJohnSmith lived about as well as you could in a corrupt communist government.